But can it run Crysis? Yes, yes it can. Hey, what is up my fellow gamers, it's Gigabyte47 and today I am benchmarking the Crysis Remastered on my PC. And in my PC I have the RTX 5070 Ti, which is paired with the Ryzen 9 5900X and 32 GB of DDR4 memory. Now, while not being the ideal pairing for this game, it should be more than enough. And so I am pretty curious to see how a 6-year-old game, I think, the Crysis Remastered, the first one was released back in 2007 and the remastered was, I think, around 2020 or something, so it's about 6 years. And yeah, I wanted to see how the game that was ahead of its time plays on a current spec, even though it is not completely current spec. So yeah, we'll talk more about that later on. For now, let's jump into the settings. And as you can see, I'm playing the game at 1440p with anti-aliasing at SMAA 2TX, which we would be changing later on throughout the game. And for the advanced settings, I'm pretty much maxing out everything. I am using the Can It Run Crysis preset, so yeah, everything is maxed out. I'm also using the experimental ray tracing boost mode, so with the DLSS off for now, which I don't think would be necessary for this game because probably I'm gonna be over 60 FPS most of the time. You can still maybe get more FPS with DLSS on, but we'll see. Alright, now that we are in the game, let's start benchmarking the FPS. And yeah, it's pretty solid for now. It's hovering around 100 to 90s. We are dropping to the 80s. Yeah, something like 80 to 90 FPS. So I'd say an average of it's going over 90 sometimes. So 90ish FPS most of the time, at least at this place, which is not that intensive. But still, with that shooting and some explosions, it's doing pretty well. Yeah, you got that smokes and stuff. Yeah, not so bad. But you can see, looking at the CPU usage, it's only hovering about 20 to 25% at most of the time, and it is not like a strictly hardware limit, because this game has a limitation, like a big limitation, where it only supports a single core. So this game runs on a single core, and the original game only uses a single core and a single thread, but the remastered has improved on that and kind of uses multiple threads, but still not as good as those games that came out after this. So looking at the GPU, it is hitting 98 to 100% sometimes. So yeah, you can see clearly this is not a mostly not a CPU limitation. But if you have a higher clock speed, core clock speed processor, you might get more FPS than this. But honestly, not so bad considering how this game engine was designed, and the graphics still holds up today. I mean, it is a remaster, but even if you were playing the original game, I would say it would still hold up because it was such a damn good looking game back then. The remastered and the original is not that far ahead when it comes to graphics and details. So it's definitely a smooth sailing so far, hitting an average of 90 FPS, and GPU usage tends to get higher when needed, so not bottlenecked all the time. Though I would say I have seen frame drops below 40, like mid 40, or was it below 40? I can't remember, but I've seen 40ish FPS at a certain point of the game, like a specific part of the map, which I totally forgot to record. It was at that place where you would get grenades for the first time. Like, it's at the top of a certain mountain where you would go to collect some grenades. So at that place, I've seen the game drops below 50 FPS, something like 40ish. maybe had dropped below 40, but yeah, that was the only time when I saw the game dropping significant FPS. So other than that, it was all smooth sailing over 60 FPS easily. Anyways, let's now try changing the anti-aliasing mode. I'm gonna use SMAA 1TX, which probably not gonna change much, honestly, and it does not really make that much of a difference. Even in visual quality or in FPS, it's pretty similar to what I was getting. So yeah, not much of a difference here. Now water in this remastered version should be improved, is what I think. I can't remember the original game, but I still definitely think that it has improved. I'm a bit curious about the reflections. Let me try turning off the ray tracing boost mode and see if that makes any difference here. And I can't see much of a difference here. And in FPS either, I can't find much of a difference here. Maybe it only affects, direct light sources, like, a light bulb or something. Well, we'll see that going forward. And surfing through the lake, we are getting comfortably over 100 FPS. So no big deal. I guess the land is where we will be getting the least amount of FPS, since there's a lot of vegetation. So vegetations are heavy on hardware. So yeah, let's try changing the anti-aliasing to TAA and see if that makes any difference. Okay, frame wise, I mean, like FPS wise, not big of a difference. I mean, it's practically the same, but visual quality wise, I can see some shimmering is gone, but it kind of also made the game a bit smoother, like you know like blurrier, smudgy looking, kind of. TA kind of like blurs the edges of everything so that the jag lines is not visible that much. So that's probably why the game looks a bit uh, blurry. And the CPU and GPU usage is, like I said, is staying pretty much similar to what we've seen, and the GPU dropping to 60s and 70s. At times there's not much going on the screen. I think when we are near a lot of vegetations that the GPU goes to its absolute max. Ooh, that is some good explosion right there. The explosion seems to have improved a lot in this remastered, but then again, I can't remember much from the old game, except for some of the story. Okay, let's now try SMAA 1X, and if we look at that, okay, the shimmering is kind of bad, but it's a bit more sharper than TAA. You do get more FPS than the other options we have tried so far. Not by a big mean, but about maybe like 5 to 10 FPS, which is still, depending on how much FPS you get, can be big. Yeah, I guess there's a lot more shimmering in SMAA than any of the settings that we tried. Let's compare the anti-aliasing right here. Yeah, I do recommend using the maximum anti-aliasing with this GPU. I mean, why not? It has the horsepower to handle it, so use that and get the best quality possible. Let's look at the anti-aliasing right here. This is now TAA, and this is now SMAA 2TX. SMAA 2TX is much sharper than TAA, and it does not have much of a shimmering. Anyways, let's try changing the resolution now. We are playing on 1440p right now, so let's try 4K. So do note that I'm using the 4K resolution using custom resolution with the NVIDIA control panel. So since my monitor does not support 4K, but it should still give us an idea of how the game would run on a 4K monitor. And in 4K, yeah, the aliasing is pretty bad here with it turned off, and the FPS, as you can see, has dropped significantly. Yeah, below 60 FPS. So TAA better than off, and even though it's a bit blurry, and SMAA 2TX where we get more sharpness, I would personally prefer this, even though there's a like a tiny bit FPS drop than before, maybe like 2 or 3 compared to TAA. But yeah, definitely not an ideal gameplay here. Like it drops to the drops just below 50s and to mid 40s maybe. It stays around 50s FPS, so not hitting the 60 FPS mark. But let's try turning on DLSS. Also, to compare the visuals, we're gonna stay right here, and this is 4K with anti-aliasing at SMAA 2x. And looking at the trees, it's not that bad, pretty good, but we tend to drop frames a lot here. And let's try DLSS quality. And we are over 60 FPS. Good, that's good. And the visuals is actually good. Maybe it's better than SMAA. Maybe it's my imagination now. It's probably similar to SMA T2X. But yeah, at least you're getting more FPS, so easily over 60 FPS with DLSS at quality. I don't think you should go more, below quality, since you are already getting over 60 FPS. And with all the explosions and stuff, it stays above 60, so it is good to see that. And it's probably better than playing at native because one, you get obviously more FPS, and two, it is as good as SMA 2TX or maybe tiny bit better. And if it is like at least as good as native with anti-aliasing, then just use upscaling. I mean, that's how probably game devs got laser to optimize the games these days. Yeah, upscaling is probably both the good and bad thing that happened to us. Maybe bad thing, because in the first place it's because of unoptimized games that we have to rely on upscaling. But then again, it is a technical improvement, so it should be improving on top of what you are getting already. Yeah, that's life. It's not always fair. Okay, I think this is a good point to check out the ray tracing boost mode and see if that makes any difference. And it does. I can see the light reflection just faded away. There was a light reflection right there and it's gone. So there's definitely a difference at the cost of a few FPS, maybe around 3 to 5 FPS. And it may be not that much of an impactful on the overall game, at least comparing the visuals. But I would still turn it on, since just because I can. And I bought this GPU to play game maxed out, and that's what I'm gonna do if I can get over 60 FPS with maxed out settings. Even if I had to use some sort of upscaling, like I probably wouldn't go below DLSS quality on 2K resolution. For 4K, you can maybe use DLSS balance. I've seen with the new DLSS that even using DLSS performance is pretty good. So if you're using DLSS quality or balance on 4K, you would still get pretty good visuals, unless until you're like pixel peeping at like maybe like what microscopic level. And by the way, at 4K we are pretty much hitting 98 to 100% usage almost all the time consistently. So I mean, at 4K we are not CPU bound, we are mostly GPU bound, even though the CPU is still at 20% because of what I said, the game engine limit. But I can't complain since it's getting over 60 FPS and using just a single core and maybe a few threads. And if you guys are wondering how the game plays at 2K with the DLSS, let's try that on. So yeah, right now DLSS is off with anti-aliasing at 2TX. And now with DLSS at quality, and the FPS remains pretty much the same. As you can see, it's hovering around 100 FPS, and if you look closely you can see the GPU utilization has gone down significantly towards the lower 70 to higher 60s. So yeah, we have effectively hit a CPU bottleneck there, maybe due to the fact that I already talked about the game engine limit, or it might just be straight up a CPU limit on this one. So yeah, at 2K I don't think it's worth using. I mean, I don't think there's any difference between FPS in native and or in DLSS mode. So it doesn't matter if you are using quality DLSS or just native resolution with the anti-aliasing turned on, you will get pretty much the similar FPS. So yeah, I think you should go with whatever your eyes please, and since the FPS remains pretty much the same, it should not matter that much. So for me, I prefer playing at native resolution whenever possible, but since it's an old game, I don't think it does have that much of a advantage over using DLSS quality, because from what I can see, the graphic quality does not differ that much, at least not until you pixel peep at microscopic level, which at that point I don't think you're gonna enjoy playing any games, any older games, even if it's remastered. So that's pretty much about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you want more benchmark videos like this, please subscribe, and I will try to be more consistent, but I can't promise you that yet because I have too much work going on, and I have very little time to spend on gaming benchmarks. This is something that I would like to do, but it just takes too much time. Anyways, I hope you guys subscribe, and if you like the video, leave a like, and if you have any questions or something, just leave them in the comments, and as always, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Adios.